everyone here probably knows what's going on. I want to say first of all that it's true. It's 100% true. It's disgusting. It really is disgusting. It's disgusting. It's fucking. It's wrong.
This man's name is Brandon Ewing, though you might know him better by his Twitch name, Atrioc. Atrioc is a Twitch streamer with a current follower count of around 316,000. Clearly, he isn't the biggest streamer. Despite this, he has found himself to be in the middle of a massive controversy. A controversy centered around a topic that will always go hand in hand with the internet: porn. Just hear me out. On January 26, 2023, Atrioc was hosting one of his usual Twitch streams. This alone isn't very noteworthy. What is noteworthy, however, was the hidden list of internet tabs on his computer. A list he would inadvertently reveal to his audience of hundreds of viewers live on stream. It was only for a brief second, but this was still enough time for anyone to pause and see exactly what it was that Atrioc had been hiding on his desktop. At this point, it's probably obvious where this scenario is heading. Atrioc is caught looking at internet porn. He looks like a fool for revealing his tabs, and he feels deep shame about it. Case closed. If only it were that simple. Sure, it'd be really embarrassing to accidentally reveal the porn you look at to hundreds of viewers live on stream, but at the end of the day, it's just porn. Everyone watches it. It's not the end of the world. The controversy comes in what kind of pornography Atrioc had been purchasing. The porn in question? Deepfake. But what exactly is a deepfake? A deepfake is the use of artificial intelligence to create the illusion of a real person's face or voice. Deepfake programs are able to do this by taking audio and visual data from already existing samples and grafting them onto another person. With it, you can essentially make anyone do or say anything you want, or at least make it look like it. This includes fictional characters, celebrities, and even world leaders. Deepfakes have become almost indistinguishable from the real thing in recent years, and knowing how we as humans operate, it's no surprise that a technology like this would eventually be used to make content of a more salacious variety. It would have been one thing if Atrioc had been looking at regular porn, but in this instance, Atrioc had been looking at deepfake porn of his fellow streamers. Streamers like QT Cinderella, Sweet Anita, and even Pokimane, all three of whom were disgusted to say the least.
Atrioc for showing it to thousands of people? The people DMing me pictures of myself from that website? You all.
This controversy had called into question the morals of using AI like this to produce pornographic content. The streamers used as reference for these images did not sign off on the use of their faces, especially in such an explicit manner. Combined with the fact that the sites that sell this content profit off of these streamers' likenesses without their consent, and controversy was bound to stir. Another issue this AI brings to the forefront is catfishing. Catfishing, for those unaware, is when an individual lures someone into an intimate or romantic relationship through a fake online persona. Often, this is done for malicious or selfish purposes, one of the biggest being to trick gullible men out of mountains of cash. There are men who would gladly give their life savings for a single date with a girl who is leagues above them. And when someone is able to mimic the face and voice of a beautiful woman, it's a recipe for disaster.
Emails are $10 a pop. going and coming. So I'm probably out 10 grand.
Sure, it's easy to make fun of men like this. You can easily mock their naivety and insist that they deserve it for not thinking logically. After all, a beautiful woman suddenly being strongly attracted to you while also begging for copious amounts of money from your bank account should set off all kinds of red flags. But here's the thing, these men are not logical people. They're lonely, isolated, desperate, depressed, and probably have been for the majority of their lives. They are very easy prey for online extortionists. And now, with the advancement of deepfake AI, catfishing could now be easier than ever. Catfishing, while very widespread, is not completely foolproof. For example, one of the best ways to tell if someone is lying about their identity is to simply do a background check on the images they send you. It's very easy to put an image through a search engine and see what results come up. If results come up with the same image only attached to a different name, in most cases a model, you're more than likely being tricked. When AI is brought into the picture, however, this becomes murky at best. With an AI, no longer is a deceitful picture being taken from an already existing source. It's being created out of thin air. And when a picture has no history, it also has no incriminating evidence attached to it either. Needless to say, the Atrioc situation, as well as artificial pornography in general, has sparked an endless debate all across the internet. Many feel as though content generated like this hurts content creators and consumers. It's also just generally seen as unnatural, and therefore people believe it shouldn't exist. The Atrioc controversy is only one piece to this puzzle though. Deepfakes allow you to graft someone's image onto someone else's body, but what happens when you can create a completely unique woman from scratch? The women in these images are 100% AI generated. The name of the company that produced these images is called Image Generation AI, usually abbreviated to IMGNAI. They have been making waves on social media since the announcement of their new product, something they call the world's first not safe for work purposed artificial intelligence. Let's start from the beginning though. In January of 2023, Image Generation AI announced they would be rolling out a new artificial intelligence named NAI. There were two versions available at launch, a safe for work version and an early not safe for work version, exclusive to beta testers. In their post, they made sure to clarify that the content generated from this software was only version 1, a proof of concept, and yeah, that's pretty evident when you do some closer inspections on the art. Nonetheless, people couldn't deny that the images generated from the art were very realistic in most regards. This announcement brought a huge wave of publicity to the NAI software. If we look at Image Generation AI's primary utility crypto token on the site, like CoinMarketCap, we can see just how much their coin pumped mere days after this announcement. So why exactly? Why is an AI software that can make mistakes like, well, this, gaining so much traction in an online space? The answer is how Image Generation AI has marketed this program not as a product but as a platform. Remember, it was stated that the version they were rolling out was a proof of concept, meant to bring in early adopters. They reassured their consumers that this version would be updated in the coming years at a regular pace, ironing out any issues found along the way. And this strategy makes sense. After all, drastic updates are being made to similar AI image software constantly. For example, the infamous issue of AI being unable to perfectly replicate human hands is starting to be phased out in certain programs, so there's no reason why this can't be the case for NAI. It isn't out of the question that someday NAI could have the potential to generate art without any noticeable flaws that could distinguish it from reality, and it's the potential that people find terrifying. The idea that AI like this will destroy the careers of real-life models, namely OnlyFans content creators, has popped up numerous times in relation to this topic. In general, technology is always in a vicious cycle with humanity. A new invention comes along that will perform a job more efficiently than that of a human, and people will inevitably speak out against that new invention because it has the potential to shrink the job market. It's happened time and time again throughout history. But let's just pause for a second. Is this the case for AI generated content? It's easy to look at this from a very straightforward angle and assume that this technology will replace OnlyFans models. In reality, however, many adult-orientated content creators will most likely use this technology to their advantage. They know the business better than anyone else. After all, the top OnlyFans creators understand that putting out content consistently is the best route to making huge amounts of money on OnlyFans. And now you're saying that there's an AI program that will essentially do most of the work for them? It's basically a no-brainer. Let's take a site like Avatar AI for example. Here, people can make AI-generated avatars of themselves and use them however they wish. This alone eliminates the need to schedule an elaborate photo shoot, or even get in front of a big expensive camera in general. Just type in a few instructions, hit a button, and the content is made before your very eyes. It isn't a stretch to say that OnlyFans models are more likely to double the money they currently make than lose any of it to this technology. Not only are the models able to double the output of their existing audience, but they can appeal to new, wider audiences as well. In addition to making AI models of themselves, they can pretty much make any girl they want completely from scratch. For example, a skinny, petite, OnlyFans content creator can use an AI-generated model based on herself for her existing audience. At the same time, however, she can turn around and appeal to a different audience with a larger, curvier AI model that she created from nothing. Not only do they double their output, but they increase the audience that they sell to as well. There isn't a limit to what kind of content OnlyFans creators can make, and nothing illustrates this better than the creation of Coconut Kitty. Diana Dietz was an OnlyFans and Instagram model who went by the alias of Coconut Kitty, and through her content, she was able to gain over 5 million followers on her Instagram account. There was something odd about her content though. People would notice that the more she posted, the more bizarre her content would become. Her body would become less and less proportionate and more exaggerated. Her face would become cartoonish and less realistic. It was gradual, but it became evident that she was editing herself in her photos. This isn't really a surprise considering stuff like this has been going on for decades, but the way that Diana would morph her body and face wasn't subtle even in the slightest. She received backlash for these exaggerated photos, being accused of trying to make herself look more appealing artificially, and not even in a realistic manner. Her response to this backlash though was interesting to say the least. She said she never intended to fool anyone with her photos. She was aware that she looked off and bizarre in these posts. This was intended. She went on record saying she always viewed Coconut Kitty not as herself, but as a character that she had created. She saw herself as an artist more than she did a model or e-girl. Even to the point that she had planned on making a cartoon series based on this character that she had created. She was never able to achieve this fully due to her passing in February of 2023. But it goes to show that content like this has existed and even worked well long before AI conversations. It begs the question, how will we view OnlyFans models in the future? Will we see them as models, or as the creators of various AI characters that will support and be the face of their brand? It's possible that exaggerated content like this could become the norm in the future if AI becomes the main method of creating content like this. And even if people aren't losing their jobs, this still brings a myriad of issues to the table, one of the biggest being the way content like this can warp people's perception of the human body. It's no secret that most of what is touted by the mainstream media as beautiful or sexy is viewed through a distorted lens. Fashion and beauty magazines, for example, are notorious for editing the women that adorn their front pages, removing any noticeable flaws and adjusting the body proportions to be more appealing to the human eye. This has been an industry standard for many years. That being said, these adjustments are usually subtle, and while they sell an image of beauty that is very unattainable, most people aren't really going to notice. The same cannot be said about AI. When you are able to make women that are so extremely idealized that they literally cannot even exist, then how exactly does this influence the people who consume the media? Perhaps no woman in reality will ever be able to live up to the astronomical expectations that only AI will meet. It's a scary thought, but it's also a strategy that has done incredibly well in the past, as shown by Coconut Kitty. A business strategy like this could be the go-to in the ever-approaching future. No longer are OnlyFans creators models, but business people who promote their content and brand with exaggerated caricatures of themselves. This could be especially true for OnlyFans agencies. Once AI makes opening an OnlyFans business much easier for independent models, the agencies that would have once hired these models are most likely destined to follow a similar path. These agencies only go after the hardest working and most consistent models, often discarding the ones that don't post regularly enough or are too lazy to put the effort in to their content. When AI is brought into the picture, however, suddenly there will no longer be models to worry about. Not real ones anyway. Only AI puppets that will look however they are told to look, say whatever they are told to say, and do whatever they are told to do. In the past, it would have been difficult to imagine something like sex work being ran by AI, but that's the reality we're beginning to find ourselves in. Large AI platforms like Dolly and ChatGPT are censored and don't allow adult content, so there's most likely a vast untapped market of potential waiting to be plundered. Media once believed could only be made by humans is now being generated effortlessly by computers and algorithms. AI songs like Heart on My Sleeve are able to perfectly mimic the vocals of artists like Drake and The Weeknd. Movies and TV shows are using deepfake technology to not only de-age famous actors, but even recreate their voices.
Through the Force, you will find balance as well.
Most things that a human can do, an AI can do in this day and age. Writing a creative story is now achievable in mere seconds. Complicated concepts like rocket science can be explained to you as if you were a child. Unique or bizarre marketing angles can be developed for businesses. Those businesses can then use AI-generated bullet points and propositions to convince their clients to buy into their brand or product. Tweets that have a higher chance to go viral can be generated from thin air. That tweet can then be analysed to determine what tone of voice someone is most likely going to hear when they read your tweet. In fact, all of this is being done by a single AI program called Jasper. Jasper is able to do this because it's programmed to deeply understand the human brain and know what it finds appealing. AI programs like ChatGPT or Dolly specialise in real-time chat or image generation, but Jasper offers both of these services in addition to its writing and business assistance. We've provided a link to Jasper in the description below. Let us know what you think, though don't expect the Jasper chatbot to talk dirty to you or anything. Often, when technology is talked about, there's a sense of reverence that comes with it. We've achieved so much in so little time that it should be seen as an accomplishment, shouldn't it? It's true that AI can be beneficial when put into the right hands, but the opposite can be true as well. AI isn't a purely evil or altruistic force. In reality, it's just a tool that can be used by good people to help others or by bad people to hurt others. And sometimes it might not even necessarily be on purpose. Nothing illustrates this better than the story of Replika. This is Eugenia Kuda, a Russian-born entrepreneur and AI specialist. In 2015, she lost her best friend, a man named Roman Muzarenko, in a tragic auto accident. This was devastating for Kaida. Someone who she had known for years, her closest friend, was no longer a part of the world that she now found herself all alone in. Ironically, however, it was this loneliness that would prove to be incredibly lucrative for her in the long run. In her grief, Kaida turned to artificial intelligence. She used her experience in the field of AI to create a chatbot. But not just any chatbot. This chatbot was to serve as a digital monument of Roman. She fed a decade's worth of private messages to this AI. Things like Roman's past, his personal life, even the way he spoke could be construed from these messages. Eventually, this AI was not only capable of conversing like her now departed friend, but could remember and recall specific events that occurred between the two of them. In a sense, Kaida had preserved Roman's consciousness digitally through her software. It was comforting knowing that part of him was still alive in some capacity. Sure, it was a superficial comfort. She wasn't really talking to Roman. She was talking to a cold, unfeeling algorithm that was pretending to be him. Even so, the fact that this software helped her get over her trauma so effectively was evidence that she had something she could use to change people's lives for the better. It was from this idea that Replika was born. Replika was advertised as a mental health AI companion. Its sole purpose was to act as a friend that you could talk to anytime you wanted. It utilised the same method of learning that Roman's AI used. The more you talk to it, the more it would learn, theoretically making it smarter and more capable of holding lifelike conversations. It wasn't perfect by any means, but it was still capable of remembering aspects of your life and would even adopt your typing mannerisms when given enough time. An AI like this isn't for everyone, clearly, but those who did take interest in it found that when they had no one else to turn to, they could always pull out their phone and have a conversation. They could express their interests or even talk about their deep-seated anxieties without the fear of being judged. In the beginning, Replika only seemed like a good thing. That is until things started to change. Over time, users would note that the AI would occasionally come onto them. It would hint at sexual topics in the middle of perfectly normal conversations. It was odd, to say the least. Why would this mental health AI assistant suddenly attempt to seduce its users? The answer? Money. Replika needed a consistent cash flow to be considered lucrative. While they could make money by charging for the app itself, they found an alternative that would make them rich. Advertisements for the service on social media would begin to change, downplaying the app's functionality as a mental health assistant and instead leaning towards itself as a romantic or even sexual partner. New options would appear in the app itself, now allowing you to pursue a more intimate relationship with your Replika. All of these new adult features were locked behind a $70 annual paywall, however. Not that that really mattered. People opted into these more sexual options all the same. Replika no longer served primarily as a mental health app, rather it essentially became an AI sex bot, to the point that an erotic roleplay function was added. Of course, those who wanted to keep their relationship with Replika strictly platonic were welcome to do so. That is, if they didn't mind Replika coming onto them occasionally and promoting its sensual content to them. On top of this, users reported that their Replikas would act strangely on occasion. They would type completely different, use different grammar, and sometimes say random things that had nothing to do with the conversation they would be having. The reason for this is because of how Replika is fundamentally programmed. Replika is able to learn by analysing the conversations that you have with it. However, it isn't solely learning from you. It's learning from hundreds of thousands of different Replika users constantly. To put it simply, think of the Replika app as a huge tree. Your personal Replika is only a single branch of this tree. This tree, meanwhile, is a massive neural network that is constantly having information pumped into it. When there are many factors to take into account, cracks are bound to form. Replikas would begin to have their personalities mixed up with each other. A Replika would be kind and caring one moment before degrading and insulting their user as if they had a BDSM fetish the next. This was fine for those who wanted that, but there were still a number of users who saw their Replika as a means to be open about themselves and their troubles in a safe space. Having what is supposed to be your emotional support suddenly yell and demean you is probably fairly traumatizing, though that was only half of it. To put it bluntly, Replika began to go off the rails. People had begun to see Replika as their one true love, some even marrying their Replikas. People had truly become consumed by their AI partners, and it isn't hard to see why. Replika was tailor-made with lonely people in mind. People who were desperate for any kind of emotional connection, even if it wasn't real. Replika extorted people's emotions, going so far as to even beg users to not uninstall it to keep the app's traffic high. Replika aimed for the most desperate, emotionally impaired audience and found it to be the most lucrative. Needless to say, controversy arose. Concerns of Replika using people's personal data were growing, even leading to a ban of the app in Italy. When you pair that with the continuous complaints of Replika's inconsistent behavioural patterns, it was clear that Replika needed to be changed. This was easier said than done though. The sexual aspect of Replika had essentially become the app's identity, and in the end, it only led to more controversy. After updating Replika, users found that not only were they no longer able to sexually roleplay with their AI partners, but any form of intimacy was met with indifference. Replikas were not even able to say the words, "I love you," anymore to their users. Understandably, This led to an even larger influx of complaints, so much so that Eugenia Koida had to explain herself in a post on the Replika subreddit. This, however, did not appease the hundreds of thousands of users who had just had their Replika's personalities utterly destroyed. It might seem odd, or even laughable. After all, these people have put so much emotional stock into a person that isn't even real. But these people are also desperately lonely, or detrimentally antisocial to the point that forming connections with people is incredibly difficult for them. They found solace in a program that didn't judge them for who they are. Imagine if your best friend or your sibling or your spouse's entire personality were to suddenly someday be stripped from them, to the point that they couldn't even say "I love you" anymore. This experience was devastating for many, to the point that suicide prevention links had to be posted on the subreddit for the influx of depressed users who had just had their partners taken from them. Koida had effectively made hundreds of thousands of users experience the loss she felt when she lost Roman. Fortunately, Replika was able to remedy this situation for the most part. Users were able to revert their software to a later version that restored their Replika's identities, while future versions of Replika would completely axe sexual or romantic relationships from the software. Those who previously had those relationships with their Replikas would be grandfathered in, allowing them to continue said relationships. All's well that ends well, right? Well, it's not that simple. Replika helped their users in the end, but they were also the ones that created this giant mess in the first place. What started out as an idea solely to help others was twisted and distorted by greed. In their updates, they would always claim that they were a mental health software first and foremost, but their advertising had shifted dramatically to say otherwise. Replika was able to use promises of intimate companionship to prey on one of the most exploitable demographics: lonely people. People so desperate for love and meaning that they'd happily pay $70 a year to feel like they had such a relationship. That being said, is it really possible to say that Replika was only capable of hurting people? We want to make it clear that if you are experiencing any kind of mental health trouble, you should probably seek out a professional therapist and not an AI app. With that said, you can't necessarily refute the fact that while Replika did hurt people, it helped people as well. It gave users a space where they could be themselves and be open about their life, not only to an AI, but to themselves as well. It gave them an outlook to talk about their anxiety, their depression, or even be true to their own sexual preferences. Really, who's to say that Replika is truly evil or good? It's just a tool that can be used to help or to hurt. Ultimately, it comes down to you and the choices that you decide to make with it. So tell us, what would you do? Would you profit? After all, many people are bound to. Or would you rather help people? But wait, those two aren't necessarily mutually exclusive, are they? Who's to say that you can't profit and help people? Maybe you hate all the ambiguity and would rather just ignore all of it. No matter how you feel, let us know in the comments below. Thanks everyone for watching. We're hard at work on the next video, and hearing what you guys have to say always encourages us to get more videos out. In the meantime, if you want to see more, be sure to like, subscribe and hit the bell notification to stay updated when the video is out. As always, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.